We know today that security is more important than ever when it comes to dealing with computers, technology, and your vital information that's out there. There's a way that you can use blockchain to get a lot done. And I got a chance to talk with a company that really has some insights that can help you a lot. The name of the company is ShoCard. I love best about my job as a professional speaker, as a marketing coach, and as a person who's a journalist, I get a chance to see wonderful new technologies and then get a chance to share it with you and say, look at this, it really is something to consider. And there's a new technology out that really handles a big need of making sure you are authenticating people, you're verifying who they are, but also without all the hassle and the friction that comes into it. This technology is called ShoCard, and I had a chance to talk with their CEO, Armin Ebrahimi, and he talked about it in a beautiful way. I mean, a really nice guy who's really smart, but even more important to you, he's got technology that can help you and give you some insights on how this can help you. Matter of fact, even before I get a chance to show you the information that they've got, I want to share my screen with you so that you can see what's going on with this and how it works. Okay, here I am on the ShoCard site. I want to show you this is something that's really special. It's over here, ShoCard, ShoCard.com. And I'm going to the section here on how it works. I love the little diagram they put together here. It says the first step in establishing one's identity is to create a ShoCard ID. Here's kind of an overview here. ShoCard allows users and enterprises to establish their identities with one another in a secure, verified way so that any transaction, whether it's to log in, share personal information, or complete a financial transaction, can be accomplished quickly, that's important, seamlessly, equally important, and with peace of mind. I like all of that. And then here's this diagram. I'm going to show you this right here. I'd encourage you to go over to the website and take a look at it. But you start by creating the identity. The user downloads the app. Then the user takes a picture of the valid government-issued ID. They extract the information, etc. Then the user confirms the data and then self-verifies. For security, the user creates a passcode, the information is encrypted and saved on the phone, etc. And then it goes into further security measures to obfuscate, that means kind of hide it and everything, the data, and then the server writes the hashed signed data onto the blockchain. Now that's important because once it's there, it can't be changed. That's really nice, immutable. The data is not available in any readable form to any third party or ShoCard, they can't even see it themselves, without the user sharing information first. And then you'll see it goes through the rest of this here. I'll let you read that on their website here on ShoCard and how it works. But this is a technology that got my attention. And I want you to take a look at it and think about it. Is this the right thing for you? Is this something to be aware of? And look at where our world is today. So get a chance to take some time, go over this, and listen to what the CEO of the company has to say. Armin is a great guy. As I said, he's brilliant. He's really a nice guy. But more important, he has a great way of articulating and explaining what can be done. Watch this as we learn about ShoCard and security for you. I am looking forward to hearing about this because as I've been studying your website and seeing what's available, I see a lot of applications for business and want to look at those. Tell us from a 50,000-foot point of view what ShoCard is and the practical applications for it in business.
Well, ShoCard was intended to be a digital ID platform based on mobile technologies and verified on the blockchain. And the idea behind it is to change the paradigm of how we deal with identities today. It's really inverting who owns the ID. Rather than having corporations and companies and different people that we actually get services from own different pieces of our ID, it's the user who's empowered with having that ID. It's really inverting that process. And we provide those services, mobile identity, to both businesses that provide services to consumers. Those could be airlines, hotels that are used in travel, financial services such as banks that actually provide financial services to their consumers. There are other verticals that we haven't gotten into yet, but we actually see those expanding into it, and we're seeing some interest in that, early interest within the health vertical, education, and a number of others. And then there's another vertical that we actually see being very lucrative and being able to solve some immediate problems with, and that's the enterprise. With enterprise, it's really allowing access for employees, contractors, sales channels, or even customers of various enterprises, being able to access their services a lot easier and also more securely.
Yeah, it looks good. I can see some application, and you cite this on your website, some case studies and examples, like, for instance, financial, and I can see in the health area, also in travel. Tell us a little bit about what's happening. I know you're doing some things now with some major banks in the financial area. How is ShoCard helping in financial services, banking, in those areas?
Well, let's talk about financial services. There are a number of what we ultimately see as friction points. And the idea behind, I think, any new solution is, could you get rid of friction? If you could get rid of friction without giving up security or giving up assets and value, then you've created a valuable solution. So the idea behind what we have is, one, to help financial institutions themselves streamline the process, lower their costs and what they're doing. So part of that is easing the process of KYC, know your customer, which is one of the regulations that's actually in place for financial institutions, being able to share those credentials more easily and not have to go through the process of doing it over and over again. And then also making it easier for consumers. So if you think of it, when you go open up a bank account, you have to provide, your ID, second form of ID, fill out forms, and do all of that work. And then let's say you show up at a department store and they want to give you a credit card, because if you actually open up the credit cards, you'll get a discount. You want to do that, you got to go through the whole process. You enter everything again. And behind the scenes, there's a whole separate validation, verification, who you are, and all of that happens.
Right.
But streamline the process. So you only do that once, and then you can share that information and say, look, my bank has already certified me. So when I want to open this credit card, you could use those credentials. You could give them compensation for using that, but you could streamline the process, lower the overall cost, and speed up the process. But that's one aspect of it. Then you could think about financial services, some of the other things that comes into play. Some of the pain points, some friction points. For example, let's say you're going to wire some money from your account to another account. Some banks require that. If you're going to do that, you're going to actually have to physically show up at the banks, which means you're going to have to drive there. You're going to wait in line. When it's your turn, you go in, you fill out a form, you got to sign a form, they compare signatures, they verify, then they let you actually go do the wire. Well, that costs you as a consumer a whole lot of time, because you got to travel, go over to the bank to do it. You got to have an agent working with you. That's a lot of friction. And the only reason you have to do that is because they want to make sure, if you're going to wire money outside the institution, they want to make sure that it is you who actually asked for it. Well, we could do that process. By the way, another alternative is, there's some brokers or some banks where they do is they say, if you're going to wire money, we have to call your cell phone, and we need to talk to you. But again, you have an agent who's got to call you. If I had initiated a wire transfer this morning, right now, sitting in this interview, well, I got my phone turned off. I'm not going to answer it, which means I'm going to have to wait yet again for them to call me. That's the verification process that takes place. You could do all of that by doing biometrics, where I could initiate a wire transfer. I can take a facial image of who I am. The data can be securely compared with initial images that I've had that's been verified, and signatures for that put by the bank on the blockchain. They can verify that it was physically me behind my phone doing the transaction. In a matter of seconds, I can actually do something that would otherwise take minutes, and it would actually cost both the bank and myself a lot of time.
That sounds nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So the idea behind this, if you think of it, is how do we get rid of friction, make the process faster? But by the way, the other thing that we do is we can make it a lot more secure. We can make it so that you're not just comparing hand signatures with each other. You're not calling a phone where someone else could still pick up the phone and confirm that, yeah, indeed, this is a wire that I got just because you got access to my physical phone.
Right.
We do a lot more things with regards to Touch ID, facial recognition at the server level, using the blockchain as an independent verification point to actually create multi-factors to make it nearly impossible for hackers to go in and break in.
Yeah, I like that. It's like you're taking care of both sides of it. You're making it easier, reducing that friction. But also, we concern with that. We think, hey, wait a minute, you're going to lose security, but you increase the security. One of the ways that you talked about before we started the interview here that you're doing that right now is using a decentralized system versus a centralized. Tell us the advantages and disadvantages of that, and why that decentralized system has so much better potential for security.
So in our current systems, almost everything that we have in place, everything is done for the most part using central systems. Central systems, which again is an older technology that we've had in place. What we've done is we've built a lot of security around it. But what we're seeing is more and more so the case where those systems are getting hacked. One of the most recent hacks was the Equifax hack that happened recently with 140 some million user data that was compromised. Some of the larger ones prior to that, Yahoo, which is actually a company that I know dearly, but in 2013 they had several billion user data that actually got hacked. We've seen that with Target. We've seen that with Chase, a whole bunch of different financial institutions, different businesses, and so on. A lot of that is around having that central databases. The other thing about central databases is that they're not just simply a repository of data. They hold data, everything from user credentials to user information, but they also have to share that with trusted parties. And that's how they actually get utilized. Now, the problems with that one we just talked about is security, which means if you hack into it, you could get access to millions and millions of records at once. There's a secondary problem with it too, which is how do you connect this global system that we have? And as things are expanding more and more so in a secure way, one, there's an implementation that goes behind it. There's security and there's privacy issues with it. So if you think of it, data that resides here in the US can't easily be shared with every other country. We talked about travel use cases. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But if you've got data on, let's say, US citizens, you don't necessarily want to share that with every country out there. Not all 330 million users. You don't share those, and you want to do that with user permission on use case basis and only when you need to. Now, the idea with distributed systems, first, let me just talk about how it's set up, and I'll talk about some of the advantages of it.
Yes.
One is that the user's data is with themselves. So the user data is it could be put on a mobile device, encrypted, kept secure on the mobile device itself. All the credentials, everything from being able to authenticate them, I'll say this is me, and there could be other information in it. We're talking about financial institutions. One of the customers that we have, Credit Info, what they do is they actually put credit reporting information on the user's phone, encrypted, but they verify that by signing a hash of the data that they have, and they put that on the blockchain. Now, here's what happens is that you can put verification codes on a distributed blockchain that everyone can get access to. It's an open ledger that everyone can basically read. And you actually put the raw data in an encrypted form on the user's mobile device. Now, the user could decide who they're going to share that with. The first thing you've done there is you've changed the paradigm where the user is the one in control. So when other parties actually look at my credit report, ultimately, I've gone into, I'm getting a loan, I'm getting a car, I'm getting something where they say, well, we need to go check your credit report. Usually they ask me permission for that. Hey, is that okay if we go check your credit report? And it's a very, what do you call it, loose handshake in that process. But I can actually provide permission for sharing that data straight from my phone. My data is shared. And they can independently verify just to make sure that they can trust the data that comes in. Our concept is don't trust any servers. There could be phishing sites. Don't trust any phones. They could have been hacked. Someone could actually modify data on it. But I can actually make, what we call is that you also make claims. I can make claims of who I am. I can make claims about my data. I send that data. Another user, another service provider can actually read the data, and they go to the distributed blockchain and they can verify it independently and see, is this data current? Is this data accurate or not? So that's the process, is that there is no central database. Now, let's just talk about what are some of the advantages in here. If a hacker wants to go in and steal data, efficiency is incredibly important for hackers. For hackers to go in and steal data one at a time is very expensive. But what they would have to do is, at best, and they still have to break through quite a bit of security, but they have to break through each phone individually one by one.
That's a whole different ballgame.
It's a different ballgame. So to get, let's say if you had the credit information for users distributed to 140 million users, and they actually had it on their mobile devices. For hackers to go in and do what they did with Equifax, they would actually have to go into 140 million individual phones and actually steal the data to have the raw data available for them. And then, the verification codes are on the blockchain and so on. They can't do anything with the verification codes. They're set up in a way that you can't reverse engineer back into the data. But in order for them to get it, it's 140 million independent hacks that they have to do. And that is to break the efficiency of hackers. And that's the difference between a central approach versus being able to do a distributed approach.
Yeah, Armin, this is really increasing the security. Yes, you're making it easier. You're decreasing that friction, so it's good there. But now what has been so long the rule of, well, it's either really secure or really easy to use, now you get both secure and really easy to use because you're using on blockchain. Now, you had mentioned something about travel. And I'm particularly interested in that. I do a lot of traveling. I think you do as well, getting around. Matter of fact, if you don't mind, I'm going to share a little of my screen here, and we'll take a look at what's on your site. I had this pulled up here on use case scenarios and get your comments on this of improving a customer's traveling experience at airports and hotels. You got my attention right there. And it looks like a lot of good information here. And by the way, those of you that are watching this, go over to the site, to ShoCard.com. That's SHOCARD.com. You'll be able to see this. But Armin, while we've got you on the line here, I'm going to take advantage of maybe reach through here and twist your arm just a little bit and have you tell us about some of the advantages of using ShoCard for those who are traveling a lot.
Absolutely. And this use case started out in a partnership that we have with SITA. SITA is one of the largest prominent technology providers for international airlines. They're actually owned by over 100 top international airlines. And we started out with them, and then that extended into working with a few different airlines and airports. And let me just talk about what the process and user experience is and what we're going after. Again, the idea is, how do you remove friction? Because by removing friction, you could create value for both the service providers, airlines, airports, hospitalities, and so forth, but also, and most importantly, for consumers. If consumers don't get a benefit, they won't use the services. So the idea is being able to have an individual download an app and basically register once. And there's different processes, different countries deal with it differently, where the individual may have to either do that with an agent, an airline agent in person, or it could be something they could do with self-service kiosk. I think over time, we're going to make it more and more self-service. But the idea is that you scan your passport, you scan your driver's license, other ID information that you may have. We collect biometrics, which is what's used ultimately with passports and driver's licenses, is your facial recognition. We capture that data, and the data gets certified if it's done manually by an agent who says, I've looked at the individual, I've looked at the documentation, I know this is who the individual is. And what they do is they create a hash of that data, and they digitally sign that, the airline, the government security, could be CBP, TSA, or if it's in other countries, their immigration offices. Well, what they do is they sign that hash digitally with their private key, and they put that on the blockchain. And that becomes ultimately a certification of them saying, I know who this user is, and I can vouch for this user and their identity.
Yeah, it's like you're making things safer and also easier, because I think ultimately, we all want to get through the airports. We want to make sure it's safe first and foremost, but we also want to get through there rapidly.
Absolutely. And if you think of it, 99.9% of people going through have no problems. There's only those few percent that you want to be able to identify. But what happens is once you have this ID information, now you can go through everything from, when you show up at the airport, rather than having to wait in line when you want to check in your bags in a self-service mode, you could actually check in your bags. You know who your identity is. You put a tag on your bag, scan it with your ID, and then move on, so you can avoid that line. Being able to go through security checkpoints and do that at near walking speed and not have to wait in lines. Once you actually get to the airport, you'd be able to, for the final check-in, especially if you do international travel. A lot of this is really geared towards that, and I'll tell you why that's important in a moment. But you don't need to show separate passports and boarding pass and so on. You could just use your mobile device, and with Bluetooth connectivity, being able to just go through a self-service gate, get in on the plane. But here's actually where it actually gets even more important. So let's say you're traveling to another country, you fly out, and let's say you're going to Dubai. You show up at the Dubai immigration office. When you get there, you've already been identified, with the U.S. immigration office, with the airline, with your biometrics. All of that has already been done. So now you can go through a self-service process. They can digitally stamp your passport that this is your entry going in, but you don't have to wait in those big long lines to actually show all your credentials. You go through, and this is a different.
Nice.
Now, what's nice in here is that you don't have to have two countries share their data in order to do this. What happens is I, as a user, simply provide my passport information digitally through my phone. It is on the day of travel. I'm doing that with my permission, but the data could be independently verified on the blockchain that yes, indeed, this is a legitimate user going through.
Wow. Armin, that is a win all the way around. That's a win for both of the countries as well as the person, because that way, you know, you shared this temporarily with the country that you're visiting and they get the sufficient amount of information that they require, but no more. And it's done much more rapidly. And I don't have, I guess the one disadvantage would be you don't get to meet all those nice people that you stand in line with for 3 hours going through a visa. It might be a bit, but I guess you could catch up with them somewhere else.
With them in a different yes. But let me actually extend that a little bit further. And we're working on some pilots with this as well right now. So once you actually travel, if you think of it, most of the time when we travel, you know, we book our travel tickets, airline tickets. We also oftentimes travel our final destination, the hotel that we go to. So think of this now. You actually landed, you get to your destination. When you get to your destination, typically get to a hotel and you show up there with a whole bunch of other travelers. And oftentimes you spend another half hour, and especially when you do international travel, but it also includes domestic travel, where you have to show your driver's license, your passport, your credit card. You've already done all of that stuff when you register, but they just don't know who you are. Before they let you in the room, you got to wait in line, you got to show all of that. So part of the process we're working on that with hotels as well is that because the individual has already been verified, you know who the individual is, they can go to a self-service kiosk, and with that, being able to just share their information, you already know who the user is, and they get a card key given to them for the room. Eventually, we're looking at being able to use your mobile device itself, where you actually are told which room is your room, and you could just go straight to your room, use your mobile device to open the door.
That is nice. My fellow travelers are cheering you on this one already, Armin.
Now, a word of caution in all of this is that adoption of all this stuff does take time. We're hoping that with some of the initial cases we've done, we can actually start increasing the interest level. Some cases will continue to give you actual access cards, and eventually I think things will be more automated where your phone will open the doors. But I think it's a path and a direction that we're going to. But all of this is to be able to really change your travel experience, because what you really want to do is either you're traveling for business, pleasure, but you're not traveling to stand in lines.
Yeah.
And the hotel doesn't have as many staff. The airlines don't need to have as many staff. Throughput could be increased. Overall, it's cost savings for all the service providers and just making your experience as a traveler.
I think it's a win all the way around for the people at the accommodations, the airline, the hotels, even the rental cars, et cetera. And I know you said it's going to take some time, but that's okay. I'll give you a week, because about a week from now, I'm scheduled to fly to Europe where I'll be speaking. So can you hustle to get all that in place just for me? That would be nice.
Work on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is amazing technology. I can sit here and talk with you for another 3 or 4 hours. This is great. But those of you that are watching this, think about what we're looking at. This is the future. What Armin is telling us right now really sounds good, and it's doable. It's not like, oh, gee, we got to develop it. No, it already exists. ShoCard.com has that. Bounce over to their site, take a look at it, and they have contact information on how to get in touch with them. But Armin, while you're still here, I'm not going to let you get away without telling folks how they can get in touch with you, how they can find out more information about what ShoCard is and how it would be useful in their particular situation.
Sure. So, I mean, one of the easiest things you could do is just go to our website, ShoCard, ShoCard.com. You could take a look at the different products that we offer. We didn't really get a chance to talk about ShoBadge, which is our enterprise solution as well. They could take a look at that. They could look at the business to consumer products, which is some of the ones that we talked about. And they can request a demo, or they could request information. If you're looking for information, you want to reach us, you can send us an email at info@shocard.com as well. So you could either send us an email. It's on the website, all of our contact information as well. We'd be more than happy to help you out with that. There are things you could look at self-service, and there are things that you could actually, if you want help, we'll be more than happy to get our guys to actually help you guys out with and answer questions.
I love it. Well, this is really amazing technology. When I saw it, when your people got in touch with me, I thought, whoa, this really looks good. And it's ideal for what we are looking for today. It increases security, which is really good. We need that more, but it also makes it easier, reducing those points of friction. And it's really good. Armin Ebrahimi, I really appreciate your help on this. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And for those of you watching this, think about what you just seen. You've had a look into the future. And the beauty of it is it's not just the future, it's right now. You can get hold of it. It's slowly up and developing. We're going to see more and more of that. So go over to ShoCard.com. Check out what they've got there. They've got some marvelous technology. It's something that can help you in business get more done and get increase that level of security. I'm Terry Brock with TerryBrock.com and reporting for Business Journals. Thank you for being with us today.